I'm getting the vaccine because I love Frank.
I love you too, man.
Mark?
Eric, tell me, why are you getting the COVID-19 vaccine?
I'm getting the vaccine because I love John's wife. And John.
I'm getting the vaccine because I love the Lancaster High Tigers. #1 fan.
I'm getting the vaccine because I love Margaret.
I love you too.
Oh, stop it.
And cut.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the Greater Lehigh Valley Chamber of Commerce's Manufacturing Council's Winter 2021 Virtual Summit, Your People, Your Future, Workforce Training for the 21st Century. I'm Matt Powell, Assistant Vice President of Government and External Affairs here at the Chamber. I also serve as Staff Liaison for the Manufacturing Council. Let me start by saying thank you for tuning into our second virtual summit. The mission of the Manufacturing Council is quite simple, and that is to elevate the importance of manufacturing in the Lehigh Valley. To accomplish that mission, the Manufacturing Council meets monthly to update one another on initiatives going on in their business, and also to discuss legislation that is currently being considered by our elected officials and the impact it may have on their business. For the past several months, hiring and training a workforce has been an exhaustive topic in these meetings. The COVID-19 pandemic has made it much more difficult for businesses to find the workers they need, especially those with the skill sets they need to accomplish the job they hire them for. Out of those discussions comes this summit. Businesses are finding they need to adapt the way they hire and train, and to do so, they have been turning towards the training models you will hear about today. Models like apprenticeships, mentorships, and internships, each with their own set of benefits, and all great ways to bring aspiring workers into your business. And not only give them a job, but give them a career. Our goal for today is quite simple: provide you with the information you need to take these models and turn them into a reality in your business. To do so, we assembled a panel representing manufacturers who can share their knowledge and expertise on not only a local level, but also a national level. We will also hear from a great friend of the Chamber, Nancy Dischinat, Executive Director of the Workforce Board Lehigh Valley, who will provide us with insight on how she and the Workforce Board Lehigh Valley are helping to make these training models the norm in the Lehigh Valley. Again, I want to thank you for tuning into our summit. We hope that you enjoy it and learn something new. I'd like to now turn it over to Gina Martens, Senior Vice President of Member Relations and Sales at the Chamber, to thank our sponsors.
Thanks, Matt. Let's recognize and thank today's event sponsors. Our presenting sponsor is First Trust Bank. First Trust Bank has been a part of our manufacturing programs from the beginning, thanks to Mark McLaughlin and team. Our corporate sponsor is Capital Blue Cross, thanks to Chrissy, Ann, and the entire team at Capital Blue Cross. Our keynote sponsor is Workforce Board Lehigh Valley. Thank you, Nancy Dischinat. Workforce Board Lehigh Valley is a strategic business partner of the Chamber and an integral part of our Manufacturing Council. Our bronze sponsors today: the Chamber Health Marketplace, Crayola, Engel, Hambright, and Davies Insurance, and Just Born Quality Confections. Thanks again to all of our sponsors. And now a few words from First Trust Bank.
Like many classic American and Philadelphia success stories, First Trust was created out of a great need and a vision to do something about it. During the height of the Great Depression, Samuel A. Green, a Hungarian immigrant, had a fellow immigrant friend who wanted to purchase a home, but was struggling to get a mortgage from any bank. It was very difficult, if not impossible, for ordinary citizens to get home mortgage loans. My grandfather, who was a respected member of his community, he recognized this need. In 1934, in his mother's South Philadelphia kitchen, First Federal Savings and Loan Association of Philadelphia was born. Samuel Green founded the bank on fundamental values of integrity, reliability, and a passion to serve our customers. My father and myself have continued to carry out these same values. Over the years, we've been privileged to be able to help thousands of businesses write their own success stories. Focusing on our customers' needs is not part of what we do, it's what we do. In cultivating our customer success and our community success, we in turn cultivate our own success. We have made and will continue to make investments in people and technology so that people are able to touch their money and manage their financial affairs anytime, anywhere, from any device. We look forward to participating in Philadelphia's prosperity. In this way, we honor my grandfather's legacy. To cultivate prosperity for our customers, our employees, and the communities we serve.
Let's welcome Ann Baum from Capital Blue Cross.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's summit. On behalf of Capital Blue Cross, I am pleased to introduce today's panel discussion. My name is Ann Baum, and I am the Lehigh Valley Market President for Capital Blue Cross. Capital Blue Cross is committed to improving the health and well-being of our members and the communities where they live. One key component of health and well-being is a sense of purpose and meaningful employment. Today's panel will focus on how training models similar to apprenticeships, mentorships, and internships can transform the ways that businesses hire and train their workers. We will learn how these training models help to better prepare employees for their company's specific workforce needs, driving meaningful employment for individuals and create a productive, well-prepared workforce for our business community. Our panelists today are Vice President of Strategic Initiatives for the Manufacturing Institute at the National Association of Manufacturers, Gardner Carrick, and Director of Sales and Marketing for HindlePower, Nick Hindle. Our moderator for today's panel is the Chair of the Chamber's Manufacturing Council, Scott Polochik. He's the Director of Business Development for ESPI. Before we begin the panel discussion, it is my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Executive Director for Workforce Board Lehigh Valley, Nancy Dischinat. Nancy will be joined by the Director of the Apprenticeship and Training Office at Pennsylvania's Department of Labor and Industry, Tara Lowe, and Plant Manager for Ocean Spray Cranberries, Chad Hammerly. They will talk about the work the Workforce Board Lehigh Valley is doing to help businesses harness these new and exciting training models. Enjoy.
Good afternoon. There's so many training models used to prepare a workforce in the Lehigh Valley. We have summer internships, we have formal internships, we have work-based learning and training through career and technical schools, through our community colleges, and our four-year colleges are increasingly building work experience education into their programs of study, matching students with business to learn firsthand what are the jobs, what are the career pathways of a business, what are the educational requirements, what experience and skills are required, and what background is required, and what does the work environment really look like? And because of the economy and the increasing number of jobs available, you are saying to education and training providers and the workforce in general, come on in, our doors are open, we need you, but come prepared to work. In your case, in a manufacturing environment. Come with some education, some experience in manufacturing, understanding what manufacturing looks like, a learning ability and a work attitude. And honestly, some of you are even saying, come even if you have no work experience. There are many, many training models focused on skills training and career pathways in manufacturing. I'm sure also each of you have your own. I'm yielding my time today to two speakers who will speak to the registered apprenticeship model. Tara Lowe, Director of Workforce and Training from the Workforce and Training Office from the Department of Labor and Industry, and Chad Hammerly, Plant Manager from Ocean Spray Cranberries. To begin, please welcome Tara Lowe, who will address the registered apprenticeship model of training. Tara?
Thank you so much, Nancy, and a huge thank you to the Greater Lehigh Valley Chamber Manufacturing Council. As we enter this new year and are hopeful for an end to the pandemic, I truly believe that apprenticeship is the key to the long-term economic recovery for businesses as well as job seekers. After all, apprenticeship is a way for businesses to build that skilled workforce that they are in such desperate need for and allow job seekers to earn while they learn and grow in their career. With apprenticeship, individuals earn a wage while they're learning the skills needed to be successful at that employer. This allows us to reach a pool of potential workers that may not have been able to engage in career development prior. And this creates instant trust and buy-in for them with the employer, ultimately leading to increased productivity and a likelihood of that individual to stay at that employer. According to feedback from manufacturing employers and depending on the program, often by the second year, apprentices are doing 60% of the workload of a fully skilled worker. And the real payoff comes after the 3 or so years when the company has a highly skilled and highly invested worker. Remember, the center of apprenticeship is in fact the employer. Programs are truly created around not just the industry and occupation needs in mind, but the needs of the specific employer. I have heard time and time again that with apprenticeship, the ability to learn about the skills and theory, and then being able to go to the job site and practically apply those skills is imperative. Rightfully so, there continues to be a concentration on apprenticeship from our state and federal government. Quite literally, there are going to be billions of dollars aimed at expanding registered apprenticeship. For example, Governor Wolf recently introduced his Back to Work PA plan, which specifically seeks to expand registered apprenticeship programs. In its entirety, an estimated $3 billion will be coming down the pike. Additionally, the National Apprenticeship Act of 2021 seeks to invest more than $3.5 billion over 5 years. The proposal would create nearly 1 million new apprenticeship opportunities on top of the current expected growth. And it's important to note that President Biden and Vice President Harris met with a group of labor leaders recently. And during that meeting, President Biden reaffirmed his commitment to expand registered apprenticeships and stated that he would like to reinstate the National Advisory Committee on Apprenticeships. Lehigh Valley and Northampton counties remain champions of apprenticeship and in many cases have long-standing successful programs with over 168 active apprentices right now in the 2 counties. I know Nancy and her team at the Workforce Board Lehigh Valley remain committed to growing the depth of apprenticeship and ensuring that it remains a more than viable solution to workforce needs. In addition, you can look to employers like Ocean Spray and more for best practices. In the next coming months, the Apprenticeship and Training Office will be working closely with the Workforce Board Lehigh Valley, other partners in your area, as well as all across the state to build regional apprenticeship plans, grow apprenticeship ecosystems. And we will also be hiring a regional apprenticeship and training representative for your area who can support you through every step of building, launching, and maintaining your programs. Finally, we will be making our registration process more user-friendly, more streamlined, and creating guides and outreach material. We will also be revamping our web pages to act as true landing pages for all things apprenticeship and to house all of the resources I mentioned. Thank you so much, and do not hesitate to reach out with questions, provide feedback, or to get started in a program.
Thank you, Tara. It's a pleasure to be working with you from now on. And you can be sure we will follow through on a regional apprenticeship plan. We've already started it, as a matter of fact, all right? So thank you. Chad Hammerly has a registered apprenticeship program already at Ocean Spray Cranberries and will, as one manufacturer to another, talk about his registered program with you right now. Chad?
Yeah, Ocean Spray Cranberries has their largest beverage manufacturing plant right here in Lehigh Valley. We supply 42% of all of our beverage output for the United States out of Lehigh Valley here, so it's a key plant for us. Our process here is very highly automated, and we need skilled technicians in order to make it work. Maintenance reliability is absolutely critical to making sure we're meeting our customer demands on a daily basis. And so, as we've looked to find more technical talent, it's been difficult because a lot of schools don't have the attendance and there's not as many people coming out of the programs. And then obviously there's a lot of need for that type of talent in Lehigh Valley to begin with. And so it's tough to find sometimes. So, we've looked in-house to figure how can we take high performing employees, who show that desire to learn and grow at a technical level, a way to get into our maintenance program. And so, really kind of partnering with LCTI is kind of where we started to find, young students coming out of school who wanted to do internships over the summer, and then in their senior year do co-ops. We've done some of that. We brought 2 on last year, and they're now full-time employees, right out of high school, making $27, $28 an hour, which is great. And then we also have our employees who are growing within our company, moving into some apprenticeship programs as well. And so, it wasn't always perfect at first. We had a lot of issues and challenges with it early on. I think mainly because we didn't have the right team in place to have a good structure and then execute that structure. We made a lot of changes there, and now we have a strong team in place that can execute that plan. We have training checklists, so you kind of understand in our blending department, or our factory utilities, or our bottling department, here's all the critical skills you need to have. Some of that training will come from on-the-job training with just seasoned and skilled mechanics that we have here. Some will come from us bringing in OEM to come in and train on some of the equipment we have in place. We also use programs like Red Vector, which is online training for mechanics to get basic skills around pneumatics, hydraulics, basic electrical, and things like that. And then we also partner with L-Tri-C, to kind of fill in the gaps of areas where maybe we cannot provide some of that training. So with that checklist, they methodically go through, working with their managers during monthly check-ins, how they're progressing, and that's kind of how it goes. And so far, it's been a valuable process for us, and it gives our employees an opportunity to earn up to $8, $9, $10 an hour, depending on how far they progress in the program. And then if they want to take on additional things like PLC and controls, again, using LCTI and L-Tri-C to partner with them to understand what those programs look like. I mean, they could be making $80,000 to $100,000 in a short period of time working as an engineer in the factory.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chad. You're certainly a fine example of an apprenticeship program in the Lehigh Valley, and thank you for working with us on that. We appreciate it. So thank you both, Chad, and thank you, Tara, for joining us today. And thank you to the committee for allowing us to kick off your summit. The Workforce Board Lehigh Valley and PA CareerLink stand ready to assist you in your training and workforce needs. And all of our contact information can be found in the chat room. So thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you, Nancy, and certainly the Workforce Board for your remarks, and certainly being part of the summit, and always being a very big supporter of the Chamber. My name is Scott Plochik. I'm the chair of the Manufacturing Council. I'm also the business director of business development for ESPI. And today, we wanted to touch on something that is always a big issue. So finding qualified workers is a challenge even in the best of times. So given COVID-19, it's made it even more complex. So a lot of companies are looking to other ways rather than waiting for the right person to come along. They're beginning to develop their own pipeline and their own workforce. So we have some people on board today to talk about some of these programs. These are more informal programs. So how do you get started? I mean, we take that crawl, walk, run strategy of you got to start somewhere. So our panel today is going to help us understand some of the benefits of getting started with this type of informal training and program, and the positive results that it has to the company's culture, both in profitability and productivity. So first, I'd like to welcome our panelists. First is Gardner Carrick. Gardner is the Vice President of Strategic Initiatives for the Manufacturing Institute at the National Association of Manufacturers. Welcome, Gardner.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
And next is Nick Hindle. Nick is the Director of Sales and Marketing for HindlePower, located here in Easton in the Lehigh Valley. Welcome, Nick.
Thank you, Scott.
So I'd like to start with Nick first. Can you give us a real quick high-level view of the program that you have at HindlePower? I mean, some people might have been on the program a couple of years ago when you guys were first launching it, but kind of give us a quick high level of the type of program that you run at HindlePower.
Yeah, sure, definitely. So I would say our program is definitely more of a hybrid between a mentorship, I think, and an apprenticeship. And a few years ago, I think when we started this off, there was this idea that we've got a problem with succession planning, and so we kind of took a look down the road, and it wasn't just looking at tomorrow or basically the next year. It was say like, let's take a look 5 years down the road. And let's identify, who are some of our employees that have a great amount of knowledge, people that, have been with the company for, 10, 15, 20 years, or people that are in positions that, they don't have any cross training. And, if we were to potentially lose them, we would be really high and dry. And so that was the first step we took. The second step, I think what we realized is, especially with some of our older and, legacy employees, is that how do we get the information, the knowledge out of them? And all too often, I think this is a big problem within a lot of companies. You hear about it, older employees tend to maybe do some gatekeeping, or so to speak. And so we kind of wanted to do a little bit of the opposite of that. And we realized, let's show our employees, the ones that have been with us for a long time, the amount of appreciation we have for them. Let's show them the value that they have brought to the organization. And really make sure that they know that we care. They've got a lot of trust with us, and make sure that they know that they're taken care of. And that really kind of opened up the floodgates for us. And actually, the way that we really did it was we kind of went to them, and it was kind of a bit of a back and forth conversation about how do you really want to write your retirement. And so, an example of some of these folks said that. At year 4, right before I retire, I'd like to go down to 4 days a week. Year 3, I'd like to go to 3 days a week. And, I don't know if a lot of organizations are willing to go down that path, but once we kind of opened up that communication, it was like, oh my God, we had so much cooperation for some of the older folks in our organization that just wanted to, bring that information and share the knowledge down. And then kind of looked at it from the other angle as well. And, you got to work in the humility aspect with some of the younger folks. So, a lot of us get new, younger employees on staff. I know the millennials, this was a huge thing with the millennials, and that is that they just want to run. They just want to, instant gratification. And so how do you, manage that enthusiasm, that energy that a lot of the millennials, a lot of the, youth people within the organizations have, but also at the same time, make sure that, you kind of, can't be unlimited. And so there's a kind of a soft humility conversation that kind of always needs to be worked in there.
Hold on, Nick. What I'd like to do, I am going to circle back on that one, but I would like to ask Gardner, what are some of the training models? Now you've heard sort of Nick's model where they're doing the hybrid. What kind of models beyond, registered apprenticeships and things like that are you seeing from a national level?
Sure. So most of our focus is really of more getting new employees into a manufacturing job, right? So Nick just talked about how do you grow your current employees and how do you ensure good succession planning? A lot of our focus is how do we create a continuous pipeline of new individuals into manufacturing. And for a long time, manufacturers were just at the receiving end of that pipeline. They didn't really actively engage in the development of individuals before they were hired. It was just let's wait for the community college or the local high school to turn out individuals that come and apply for work. And a lot of our goal over the last 10 years, maybe a little less, has been to get manufacturers more actively involved in that preparation process. As manufacturing has gotten more complex and the demands on employees have gotten greater, it's been more and more difficult for our education partners to really keep up with those changes and those demands. So a more cooperative education model, apprenticeship is the longest and most structured of that, but there are many more that can run all the way down to just a couple of weeks to one semester to 1 or 2 years, where manufacturers are really engaged in the education process. And whether that's by offering on-the-job learning opportunities, whether it's providing projects to schools, whether it's just recognizing the certifications and informing the schools on which certifications are most important, and then offering individuals that complete those credentials the opportunity to interview at their company. That more direct connection between the company side, the actual employment side, and those institutions that are charged with preparing individuals with the skills for those jobs is really what's most important. So obviously apprenticeship, as I said, is a formal structure, but there are many less formal structures, but still steps that manufacturers can and should take to really engage with that process.
Okay. So Nick, being a manufacturer, you can't teach experience, right? Experience is gained through working that job. So did much of your program start from, like you said before, trying to capture some of that knowledge from your older and more senior staff so that it certainly spreads out that knowledge and people aren't, sort of keeping it siloed and breaking out that tribal knowledge, so to speak? And how did that sort of float out? What were some of the methods that you employed to engage those senior staff in sharing that knowledge?
Right. So, I think a little bit back what I just mentioned before was, I think that making sure the safety of those people, making sure that, they weren't going to all of a sudden, once they opened up the gate, that they were just going to be shown the door and leave the company. I mean, I think that's happened a bit, but a lot of it is done through, I think assigning projects examples, where you've got an older person maybe teamed up with a younger person. I mean, that's a classic apprenticeship, I think, approach right there, but allowing projects to kind of happen where, maybe the outcome isn't going to be perfect. Maybe the deadline isn't going to be missed, but I say allow some of the younger people to kind of put themselves into really big growth situations. I mean, that can be done on the manufacturing floor, obviously, and the sales environment as well. I mean, I've done, many sales presentations that haven't gone so well with junior guys, but, the fact that they did it, they got there and they got to the end. The growth of that type of experience, I think, outweighs a lot of the, maybe the short-term losses you want to get from a perfect outcome. And I think that that maybe that's a little bit of an example or kind of a method that, allows for, the growth and some of that education to come down.
Okay. And Gardner, so is there a difference that you're seeing in capturing that knowledge that you're seeing from a national level between the union and non-union shops? Is there any kind of barriers that you're seeing between those, or is it pretty much the same across the board?
We have not seen a lot of difference between union and non-union, and that's more from an anecdotal perspective than it is a sort of quantitative research perspective. But we see challenges on both sides, and those challenges are pretty similar. So it really is a combination of the open jobs, right? The inability to actually fill open jobs with qualified applicants, and then how do you have a better, more structured career ladder within the company once you're already hired? And maybe in the organized shops we see a little better on the second side, but overall the challenges remain on both.
Okay, so let's touch on that a little bit. So Nick, how do you worry that you're investing time, you're investing money in your employees, and then you get them to the point where you want, and they take that knowledge and leave? How worried are you about them leaving? Or what do you do, or what steps do you take to try and make sure that you keep them engaged and certainly keep the knowledge and the time that you spent with them within your own company?
Yeah, that's so I could probably speak for hours on that one, so I'll try to keep it as small as I possibly can.
And trust me, that's the golden ticket that everybody is sitting right now going, yep, tell me that one.
Yeah, exactly. But here, simply put, I would say that no, okay, so obviously we worry about it, but we don't behave in ways that would actually indicate that we worry about it. We behave in ways that make it so that we don't worry about it at all. So these involves a lot of trust with the employees, a lot of, empowerment with employees. Our assumption, for instance, is we want to train you, but we want to really put you in the know. We want to make sure that you know why we're doing certain things we do, because we feel like if you kind of are, highly engaged, highly motivational, highly invested in the company has kind of done that, that investment in you, that you want to come and shake our hand back. But Scott, I mean, you know us, and we've been fortunate enough to win, top places to work in Lehigh Valley a few times. I think it also comes down to culture. I mean, people have to come and like who they work with. They have to like the workplace. They have to like kind of what they're doing, and it has to be a good fit. So, there's the short end of that is if you take care of your culture, if you take care of your environment, if you take care of kind of what your company stands for, what its values are for its employees, I think the employees go back. And just as an example, simply put, our management's goal for our employees is our aim is to grow our employees. Our mission is to grow our employees. It's not necessarily to make more money. It's not necessarily to, have perfect quality, zero turnover. If we can make sure that our mission is to grow our employees, we know that all those other things usually get taken care of.
So Scott, let me just jump in on that one for a second.
Sure.
I totally agree that the culture is what is most important. Right. But building a culture takes time and it takes commitment at all levels. And it's not the easiest thing to do. So in the shorter run, Nick mentioned that the instant gratification, the fact that the younger generation wants to see how they advance and see how they can do more and contribute more and be better recognized, and tying that to the investments that you make into them is a way to sort of give them that reward and kind of keep them engaged in your company. Right? They end up leaving because they can get 50 cents more an hour down the street, or because they don't feel like they've earned the recognition or the growth at their current place.
So Gardner, what do you see as what are you seeing as reasonable rates, retention rates for companies, both that engage their employees like Nick and his company does, as opposed to those that don't?
Those that don't, you're looking at
revolving door.
Yeah, I mean, it can be 100%, right? It is. It can be that bad. But those that are doing best are 10% or less. Now that's for smaller companies. Big ones, you sort of get a size problem here to some degree. But it is when you combine all of those elements of culture and of investment and of reward, like people, I don't think anybody wants to go change jobs. They end up deciding they have to because they don't see the future that they want, or that they don't feel recognized or rewarded, or that their supervisor is not treating them in a way that they like. So if you're able to take care of those three things, like people naturally want to stay where they are. They're comfortable. They know that they can advance and progress, and they're rewarded for their hard work. So when you're not delivering on one of those is when they decide to look elsewhere.
Okay. So similar to a White House press briefing, I'd like to circle back to something that we talked about before. And we talked about a little bit on the training models. So there's a lot of talk, and I've seen a lot of people talking about this earn and learn type programs. And, as you learn something and you retain it, then you get compensated for that. Gardner, what are you seeing as far as that type of training model? And there's got to be some benefits, pluses and minuses to that. Can you talk about that real quick?
Sure. So there's probably two ways to look at this one. One is that it's if you squint at it, it looks a little bit like an apprenticeship model, right? Where you are combining classroom learning and on-the-job training, right? Where you're applying what you learn in the classroom on the job in a relatively synchronous manner, right? It might not be a formal, structured, registered program, but still an effort to find those in a way. But it's unregistered. It's a company working with a training provider to try to line up how they're training their current employees or their new employees or future employees with what they're doing with them on the job. And we operate one that's kind of a 2-year program. We've seen them as little as kind of a couple of weeks in a real world environment, I think is what the top line belief on that is. And then whether you wanted to do it in a 4-year registered apprenticeship or in a 2-year community college associate degree program that's a 3-day a week at work, 2-day a week at school model, or whether you want to do it using an online training provider that you have your employees take half a day learning the skill and then come back and apply it. There's lots of different ways to go at this, but the immediate application of learning is in a paid work environment is I think the key there.
Yeah.
Okay. So Nick, do you guys do you employ any learn and earn type programs at HindlePower?
Yeah, so I was just going to say, I mean, we're a big advocate of this type of learning, kind of on the job. So we've been doing this for quite some time. So to be honest, I don't want to get into like the ideas of like the benefits of a 4-year college degree for someone in manufacturing versus something like a 2-year degree, and then you kind of work through the rest of 2 years, at somewhere else. I mean, I think the latter for a large part of manufacturing makes a ton of sense because what you're learning on the job and versus can be attributed to in the classroom, and at the same time, like for us examples, we actually pay for that education as well, which I believe is part of the the model that Gardner was just talking about. But it also just feeds back into the culture. The company's looking to invest in you. You're very happy. I think that the company is kind of helping you propel your career, your personal life along, and it kind of is a nice circle that kind of comes back to it. So. We do it everywhere, honestly, from our sales department to our order entry down to manufacturing. If anybody wants to go and do advancement, we highly encourage education. We always pay for it as well because, frankly, the results of it are almost 100% positive.
And like you said, I mean, you can't teach experience. If I have somebody that has a high school degree, but their experience at that, they become extremely valuable to the company. So. Yeah. Let me follow up with that type of question. How about you have an employee, and they're trying everything they can, but they're not retaining the knowledge. They're not able to get that. Is that somebody that you help with the development of, or how do you? I mean, those are the hard conversations, and everybody has to deal with those hard conversations. But how do you guys help? Do you help nurture them and take them to a certain point and say, this just isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, there's a million, that yes, and yes, so you always try. I mean, I think the benefit of and Terry can point to this in like an apprentice program or any type of training program is just that you have your eyes down the road, right? I mean, you're looking down the road. It's 3 or 5 years down the road. And so it's not like you're starting at like the problem point with this person. I mean, hopefully this has been a collaborative environment where both parties, the employer and employee, have come together, decided what the path looks like going forward from a training and accomplishment, where we want you to end up. And that feedback's got to be there and back all the time. I think you get into trouble when you kind of like, just do the 1 yearly review and it's like, oh, surprise, you're not at where we were hoping you to be at. But again, I mean, I think if you continue to foster the education and make sure it's right, hopefully you get down that path. But again, I mean, sometimes the puzzle doesn't fit perfectly together, and it happens.
I think a lot of people say that communication is key, and in those situations, more communication is even better. So everybody is understanding.
I just want one more point. I think you try everything you can, and you always give the employee the benefit of the doubt, no matter what, right? It's like tie goes to the runner. The employee always should get the benefit of the doubt because that's, in the end of the day, that's your company, not so much the product, it's the employees.
Gotcha. So Gardner, one other thing I wanted to ask is, looking at it from a national level, what are you seeing as far as a balance between on training, technical training versus personal development training? So a lot of people are looking at, they're helping their employees in developing those personal skills that, unfortunately, high schools don't teach how to balance a checkbook anymore and things like that. And I've seen a lot of companies taking to teaching those soft skills and some of those personal development, and that has bolstered what they're getting on the technical side as well. Are you seeing the same thing?
Well, we're certainly seeing a huge deficit in those soft skills or professional behaviors or whatever sort of description you want to or term you want to call them, and that's everything from the show up on time and work hard to the ability to sort of manage your finances, to the critical thinking, problem solving, sort of more higher level soft skills or professional behaviors, right? And those are ones that are not easy to train in a sort of very discrete way. So companies are having to figure out how to kind of manage that situation. And I think looking for partners to be able to assist them in that, because it's, everybody can teach a technical skill set, right? Colleges everywhere do it. There's online providers that can do it, but it doesn't mean that you can apply that critically thinking about how and why that machine broke, or the fact that you were, have the kind of self-discipline to ensure that you're there 15 minutes early every day because your job demands it, or that you don't let other things in your personal life sort of interfere with your work life. And that's obviously an evolving thing, and it's one that hopefully you can begin to embed some of those into education programs, and then companies can pick up the rest through employee support groups and the like, and you just do the best you can. But there's certainly a much greater recognition in the deficit of those soft skills for applicants these days than we saw 8 or 10 years ago.
So Nick, I know that in the state of Pennsylvania, probably one of the most underutilized resources is WEDNet. And I know that I think you guys have used WEDNet in the past. Is there anything else that you've used to try and help? I mean, training is great, but training costs something. So that investment into your employees and things like that. Do you take advantage or utilize those different resources that are out there?
Yeah. So real quickly, yeah, WEDNet, 100%. If you haven't used it, use it. It's basically free education for your employees. I want to though go back and touch on what Gardner just said, because he hit on so many key points that I think that so many manufacturers don't hit, and that is like these soft skills, especially nowadays. And there was I think a comment he just made about training doesn't have to happen in like 4 walls in a room, right? I mean, informal training I think is really important, especially on these soft skills, just critical thinking. And I think that a lot of companies potentially just focus on like the training of like, okay, like for instance, I've got a model airplane sitting right in front of me. You can't see it, but it's at my feet. There's a wheel, the wing, the engine. You put it all in, and that's your training. But like, there's also things like stress relief. We've talked about the importance of sleep. How important it is to get 8 hours of sleep a day. In part of training, I mean, we all make 100 to 1,000 decisions a day. 50% of those decisions are being made, unconsciously. And if you're well rested, in a good mood, don't have much stress on you, feeling good about yourself, feeling confident about yourself, right? Those subconscious decisions tend to go in the right direction. And if you're, just kind of not really educated or not really known too much about these things, which you'd be surprised. I mean, we've got even engineers that, we've taught these crazy things to, and it was like aha moments. But if you can kind of do that, I'd say that training is so important to kind of supplement the technical training. And I do think that there's a dearth of that these days. I think it's something that, companies should kind of focus on, not so much the cafeterias and the work benefits and all the things that kind of come along with the Google campus, but there's like just these soft skills that kind of I think need to be in there as well.
And I certainly think that makes the differentiator between just doing a regular run-of-the-mill training and where you are really engaging the employee and really changing that employee's outlook. And you said that has had tremendous effects on your company's culture. So, I certainly commend the way that you guys have approached that.
Well, and quality, our quality improved almost as much as doing the technical things that we started doing that as well. And I think that kind of just goes to show that we're humans and, you gotta like where you work.
And one thing I want to see, we do have some questions. I want to grab a question or two here from the chat. Those that are listening, if you want to ask a question, please go to the Q&A and type that in. Right now, we have a question from Asa. This is an industry that has typically been dominated by men. Currently working with a client to determine ways to market their apprentice and training programs towards women. So Gardner, this is to you. Are there any initiatives that NAM has set forth to make this sector more appealing to women in the workforce?
Yeah, absolutely. It is certainly dominated by men. And if you're only recruiting from 50% of the population, it's no surprise that you've got a skills gap, right? You've got a lack of qualified applicants. So there's 100 different things you can do on this front. The area that we've chosen to focus on is let's recognize the women that are in manufacturing, right? And there are 25-ish% of the manufacturing workforce is female, right? So let's identify and recognize them in not an award ceremony, but something similar, but also include kind of a day or two worth of training of how do you become the ambassador, the spokeswoman for the industry in your local community, so that you can go into the local high school and talk to girls and show them that there is an opportunity for you in manufacturing. And whether that's on the production floor or in the environmental safety and health side, or whether it's in engineering, there are 100 different careers in manufacturing, and there are ones that we're certain you'd be interested in. So let's create that army really of women that are already in manufacturing and deploy them as the voices. And we've been doing that for 7 or 8 years now. We've got about 1,000 women, a little more, that have been trained up for that. And we're really starting to see a difference in terms of their reports back about the number of girls that are excited and interested and looking at manufacturing in a way that they never have. So.
And Nick, I know your company is very diverse, and you have some, so that I'm sure that you see that correlation as well in involving and sort of lifting up the women on the team as well.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree more with Gardner. And just an example, I'd say that, good question. I mean, maybe 35 to 40% of our plant floor is women. Over half of our leadership team is women. And it's done wonders for us. So I'm a huge advocate of it.
Right. So Gardner, I'm going to ask, I know that in Pennsylvania, we have WEDNet on that for training as a resource. From the national side, yes, I mean, we've heard a lot of talk about some different monies that are going to be going out, being available to manufacturers. Can you give us a sort of an idea, some of the plans that are going to be put in place or that are in place that manufacturers can take advantage of?
Sure. So I think there's a couple of ways to look at this. So number one, you should look at this as an investment, right? This is not something that well, let me go see, if the government's paying for it, great, I'll do it. And if they're not, no, I won't. This is an investment that you should make. But once you've decided to make that investment, there are offsets that are available. Sometimes you need to be creative, though. Certainly, I would start with Nancy and her group. WIOA has the Workforce Investment and Opportunity Act has incumbent worker training options there. The Pell Grants, if you're looking at a partnership with LTRIC or someone like that in your region, there are opportunities to get those costs covered. And then if you're looking at a more formal registered apprenticeship program, there are additional options above and beyond there. So there's money floating around, but it's not as much as you think typically, and it's a little harder to access than you'd like, particularly if you're looking to try and cover costs on the company side. So if you're heading down this route, do it because it is it's what you need to do for your business, and it's because it's a commitment you're making, not because you're out looking for the incentive funding.
Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, a lot of companies are looking at this, yes, you do have to look at this as an investment. It's not an expense, because you're investing in, as Nick said, the most important part of your company. It's not the product, it's the people. So you make that investment in the people, and they're the ones that raise your productivity. They're the ones that are going to raise your quality, and ultimately, that profitability follows.
Yeah, and just on, part of this is a time issue too, right? So you're looking for expertise for individuals that can help you to set up whatever it is you're after, right? The register apprenticeship model, you've got state resources. We've been supporting a 2-year, we don't call it an apprenticeship for branding reasons, because we're trying to attract individuals that probably close their ears when they hear apprenticeship. But it's a partnership, multi-employer partnerships with a community college called the FAME model, and it's one where we at the NAM end up training the schools and the companies how to actually run the program. So there are resources out there to help you implement what you're doing. They might not be cash resources, but once you decide to head down this route, and if you want to do it well, you really need to either dedicate time yourself or find somebody that can help you figure out how to properly set up, implement, run this type of program.
And Nick, as an employer, I know you guys or your company is very flexible with your employees when they want to take these courses and things like that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, as an example, yeah, we've got 5 people coming up this spring. The pandemic cut off a lot of it, unfortunately, but I think there's going to be a big demand for all this stuff coming out forward.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, now we're going to close out here. I certainly want to thank both of you for your time today and your fantastic insights. I think that this was a very good topic. It certainly is a timely topic and timeless topic. Because it is always an issue that comes up on workforce development. So thank you very much. And, I'd like to, if you want to say a real quick word and promote your business and yourselves, go ahead. Gardner, go ahead first.
Sure. So first, thank you. I very much appreciate the time. And I mentioned the FAME model. It's one that we're very proud of. It was actually created by Toyota. And they handed over the management of it to us last year. And it's one that combines those soft skills that we were just talking about, those professional behaviors, and really drills and teaches them in a way that we thought was unique, and that is entirely embedded in a maintenance and mechatronics and automation technician technical skill set. So it is a multi-employer collaborative, and it's done in partnership with schools. So if it's something that you guys up in the Lehigh Valley think you might be interested in pursuing, we'd love to chat with you more about that, and actually look for organizations like local chambers to be the hubs for that type of program. So if you're looking for a multi-employer solution that's a nationally recognized in the box model, we'd love to chat with you about it.
Thank you very much, Gardner. And Nick, go ahead.
I'm a horrible stuff promoter, so I just no. Thank you very much, Stuff, for having me on. Pleasure. Had a good time. So that's it. Have a great afternoon.
Well, Nick, thank you very much, and certainly knowing that HindlePower being one of the anchors here in the Lehigh Valley, giving manufacturing, the diverse different manufacturers that we have in here, and knowing that you guys are doing what you do and the way that you're doing it, certainly thank you very much, and thank you for your time.
Much appreciated.
All right.
Thank you, Scott. Take care.
Thanks a lot. So everybody, this is going to conclude our panel discussion. I certainly, again, one last time would like to thank our panelists for their time. Just so you know that we are looking at the next 2 summits. The next summit we're going to follow this same track and talk on the more formalized training. So the accreditation process on, you have a program, now you want to take it to the next level. How do you get that accredited and really, expand beyond just the normal training program? And then in the fall, what we're trying to plan on is taking a look at one topic that we haven't touched yet, and that is insurance. Everybody loves health insurance, but we're trying to find out what are the things that you want to demystify about health insurance and evaluating plans that help you as a company. Thank you all so much. And I would like to again thank First Trust Bank, Workforce, Lehigh Valley. Special thanks again to Nancy Dischinat, Capital Blue Cross, Crayola, EHD, and Justborn. Lastly, I apologize. We'll also want to turn over Mark McLaughlin from First Trust. He's going to give a brief closing remark. But again, from the Manufacturing Council, as the chair, I want to thank you all for your time today and have a great day.
Thank you, Scott. And Matt, thank you for putting the program together today. Very informative and very timely. So I am Mark McLaughlin. I'm a Senior Vice President in First Trust Bank's Business Banking Group. And we are proud to be the presenting sponsor for today's event, and it was well informed. Earlier today, you saw a video about First Trust Bank, and our chairman and CEO, Richard Green, spoke briefly about the bank and its origination. So the bank is a $4.7 billion privately held, third generation family-owned bank. We are the largest bank in the tri-state area that's privately held. Quite an accomplishment. The bank was founded in 1934 at the height of the Great Depression, and over time, leadership has transitioned to our founder's son and eventually to Mr. Green, who is our current CEO and chairman. The bank primarily focuses on businesses in the private sector. We are not chasing down Fortune 500 companies, but looking to work with multi-generation family-owned businesses. In fact, the bank has numerous family-owned businesses in our portfolio that have been in business for over 100 years. So that's quite an accomplishment. Some are second, third, and fourth, and fifth generation family-owned businesses. We like to provide guidance and advice to our clients that are making that transition, because it's not easy to do. And not only do we talk the talk, but we walk the walk, as the bank has transitioned over time, numerous times from one generation to the next. Sure, the bank offers the normal products and services. We offer credit for our clients for working capital or equipment financing. We offer mortgages for owner-occupied or investment real estate, and a full set of treasury management solutions to provide safety and security for the company's liquidity. We also have an investment arm that handles companies' liquidity as well as their 401k services. You know, with the pandemic, 2020 was a very trying year. A lot of people working from home. Things turned upside down a little bit. But we were in the forefront of the PPP process, providing financing for companies who qualified for these federal SBA loans. We provided $400 million in loans to our clients, saving an estimated 30,000 jobs last year. As round two is underway, we have provided an additional $100 million to date in round two of PPP financing. So I'd like to say thank you for your time today. And if I can be of any assistance to any of the panelists or participants in today's presentation, feel free to reach out to me offline. I believe my phone number is on the information that came with the program today.